Okay, so it is hard to make videos without having a lot of emotions, but I need to find a way to calmly speak, as it is hard. We are a target individual, and we are being forced to experience disturbing things, from thoughts, memories, perceptions, reactions. And as target individual, we have people contracted by governmental entities who are supposed to gaslight you, but disorienting you, saying whatever needs to be said to confuse you and try to convince you into something that is falsified. These people are disgusting trash who their job is to try to escape a reality and create a falsified reality. Um, if you saw the last videos I made, it was so disturbing. They were disturbing me with things they even added to. It was so nasty. Last video I think was, you see a picture of three women. Two of them are specifically mentioned. Well, so one woman and one trans woman specifically mentioned the fact that they used these tactics. And when I say they, I'm obviously talking about these perps working for this program, which is obviously run by the government. They've used this pedophilia type of torture, and they make them think in these pedophilia ways, where forcing them to have pedophilia thoughts, child porn implanted in their minds, sexual reactions that are aimed toward children. This is the things they do. This is how nasty they are. As much as they try to normalize these things, this is what we're talking about. There's other human shit, but in the meantime, let them enjoy this nastiness. I do pray that they continue to live this nasty life in this cowardly way. And with me being a target individual who not only deal with gang stalking but also V2K and synthetic telepathy, I can relate to a lot of what these people said, because we know that the testimonials of many are similar to ours. We have a lot of in common when it comes to the manipulations, and it's obvious. And just let me introduce myself. I'm what you call a target individual, a TI. That means that I'm a human subject where these governmental entities utilize this technology, this defense technology, that can manipulate your thoughts, your reactions, your body, your memories. So much of you is being manipulated, rewired, and changed into something that you're not. They're literally day in and day out changing the way you think, perceive, and so much other. You are physically being changed, but also mentally and in other ways. Your whole ecosystem is surrounded by this trash who are contracted by these governmental entities, but try to create a psyop of some sort. While you're being manipulated by the synthetic telepathy, you have people who interact with you using this V2K technology that can project thoughts. Not even project thought, can project their voices into your brain, while your thoughts are being manipulated using this synthetic telepathy technology. It seems that your brain can be hooked to this supercomputer or some sort of devices that is extremely advanced, where at that point, once they have hooked you to that, when your brain is connected to this, they can overlay any thoughts, memories onto your brain, and you no longer have genuine experiences. You no longer have normal experiences, natural experiences, but everything is manipulated into you. And you have trash who speak to you, who disorient you using this V2K. Let me say V2K is this technology that somehow can project voices onto your brain, and it's done remotely. Sometimes it feels like somebody's just right close to you, maybe in the same building, maybe it's just outside. But the truth is, they can be anywhere. They can be your neighbors, they can be not close neighbors, but you hear them. And you hear this trash who try to disorient you as a target individual, and will say random things to kind of stop you from putting things in perspective. For example, I'm saying what I'm saying, and some trash, and in this case, it's a male guy. It's a guy who's obviously a male gender, and uses a tonality, right? They think that the way they address you with whatever tonality they kind of work on is supposed to get you to be subscriptive. And so you gotta hear this trash for what they are, you gotta see this trash for what they are, and you gotta understand that their job is to disorient you and confuse you. And what they are is, they're in a program that not only manipulates men and women in ways that are just so disgusting, disturbing. They're in a program that not only does that thing and utilizing a lot of pedophilia type of tormenting tactic, meaning they rewire your brain in these disgusting pedophilia ways, try to train your brain to think about children in sexual ways. It's so disgusting. Try to sound menacing and cool. It's so disgusting. And then try to make you believe that what's happening to you is something that happens to you naturally. They're sitting somewhere. I don't think it's very doesn't take much of labor in regard of physical labor, but I guess they have to be. There's somebody who needs to be around as this is happening, and it's trash. It's a life that is not worth living, I think, and I'm glad that they're living that life. As target individual, our life is also disturbed and tormented, but we have the dignity of knowing that we are just being forced to experience this, and there's dignity in our sufferance, while these losers start claiming that they're gods when they do this pedophilia type of things, because the ability of manipulating us is just very extremely advanced. But they're trash who can even say the name of a pedophile, but do this pedophilia type of torture, and the entities who contract these losers and this trash that they are filled with pedophiles. But they find the enjoyment of that, because when you are doing these things to people, you have control over these people, but you are nothing but trash. You're a loser. That's what you do, a child can do. It's nothing special. They are nasty lowlifes. If they make the mistake for me to try to present themselves in other ways, it'll be embarrassing for them. So this is the things we deal with. We deal with losers coming up with these personas when they interact with you. We deal with this disgusting pedophilia type of tormenting. And we deal with people who try to gaslight you into accepting these manipulations. And it's nonstop. That's just the psychological torture, which to me is the worst. Then the physical torture. I'm feeling my teeth slowly decaying. My eyeballs kind of, something's happening to them. I don't know if being squeezed out of my skull. I'm not sure about that, but I do feel pain. And I do feel my skull changing. My knees and my feet and my hips, all of that obviously kind of changing and moving around. My gastro organs being destroyed, my kidneys and livers and things like that, my gland, all of that, even my heartbeat, my heart is being destroyed, my legs and my arms, my shoulder, just slowly your whole body just kind of breaking down. At least this is what I'm experiencing. And then these people try to find ways to make you acceptive of this nastiness as they do these things to you, because they are trying to create these narrations, because to cope with the reality of what they are, what they do, they kind of have to paint a falsified reality. For example, when I was saying that, you hear somebody say black girls or something like that. If not that time, they've said it many times. And that is supposed to be making me subscriptive of what I'm experiencing today. You're going to hear after what I say the typical manipulations. They do the pedophilia type of torture. It's not only me. You can hear the clear tactics that they force you as an adult, man and woman, to start getting reaction toward children. It's not unique to me, and it's obvious. They use these childlike individuals, not even childlike, some of them are actually adults, barely, but adults, that are supposed to box out, for the purpose of gaslighting you, the obviousness of what they do, which is the pedophilia type of torture. They are supposed to block out something that is no way to kind of escape, right? For me, as they try to make me subscriptive of this, I like to now not only speak, but make sure that I continuously bring up the obvious patterns of what they do, because they are obvious tactics, which include the pedophilia type of torture. To them, even to deal with the fact they have to dumb themselves down and have to be seen in these retarded ways, they call it being at war, right? Because what they're trying to do is to convince me that they are not doing this pedophilia type of torture that you're gonna hear. That this is not what they do. You're gonna clearly hear others saying that they do this pedophilia type of torture, that when they ask 1,000 target individual, almost all of them said that they do this child porn implantation of them in their brain, right? Others say literally they force me to get sexual stimulations and aim those stimulations toward children. And you can see a clear correlation in regard to the pedophilia things they do. What they want me to think is they don't do that, right? These people are different. But what they've done is they have mapped my brain and made me think the way I would have thought when I was a child in middle school. And they're not doing the pedophilia type of torture, which is what you're going to hear that they do. But the way I'm now perceiving children has been somehow manipulated in a way that I would think when I was a child. That this is how I would see things if I was a child. And they've done something to my brain to relieve the way I would perceive kids in this way when I was a child. You've heard what I just said. You have perps really wanting to become this retarded. I don't want to use this word, but let me see. This on the spectrum. And when you see them, you should look at that as a convincing, logical way of thinking. That they are bringing up something that you have experienced but as a child. And that should be a logical way to analyze what's happening to you. This is what this trash the government contract are supposed to be forcing me to subscribe to. This is the life of a humiliating perp that calls themselves gods, then calls themselves at war, try to disorient you and confuse you because they understand the level of disturbing and retardations that these people have to live like. Yesterday, what made me very angry is, I have a body cam, which at the time wasn't working, did not work. It's unfortunate. It's one, I have one of these things that I was trying to make it work. I remember going to the elevator, and at one point, a neighbor of mine who's a perp, this older man, 60s or so, and I wake up early to do laundry because the nasty part about this thing is perps are civilians contracted by the government, and I'm sure there's incentives. I cannot speak about the incentive because it'll be speculations, but I'm sure there's some kind of incentives. And they will drag the little girls, the little babies. It's so disturbing. And every time I see these babies, they make me experience, and who I say they is this perps, this program manipulate my brain to react in this disgusting pedophilia ways where I'm forced to get some kind of reaction that's stimulations of some sort. It is foul. The parents of these babies drag these babies so that when I see these babies, they can do these pedophilia things. It's so foul. So I go into the elevator, going to go to the laundromat super early. And I do that because I don't want to see these kids, because these mothers and fathers will drag their own babies, wake them up super early. So when I see them, they can do these pedophilia things. That morning, I wake up super early, go into the elevator, and at one point I see this neighbor, like I said, older man, mid 60s or so. He comes in. I've already made videos about him. I have my body camera, and I hope that, I'm like, okay, as long as I have my body camera, you can be seen for what you are. He does all kind of things to ensure that I see him. I get into an elevator, and at one point, a mother and her daughter, her baby, like 4 to 6 year old, comes in the elevator. I'm like, oh, disgusting. I look away, but I have my camera, and I'm like, the reason why I have my body camera is when they do these things, you'll see that I've made videos with images of mothers and their babies that purposely want to be seen so they can do the pedophilia type of torture. It is terribly disgusting, but that's what they do. But I show what they do because I want to show this trash mothers that want me to look at their kids so they can do this manipulation that this program is capable of doing. So they go in, I get disgusting reaction and stimulation, and the man who's a next door neighbor who's right across me turns back and start like waving with the kid and try to pretend that he's playing with the kid and saying hi, whatever. But what he's trying to do is get my attention, so I see them together. Of course, I realized that, but I have my camera. I was like, I want to at least record this so I can talk about what they do and how nasty these people are. That the reason why he's doing that is because they know they do the pedophilia type of torture, and they want me to look at this kid. So I kind of turn around before I leave and make sure that my camera captured them. Right, I barely see the head of this little baby, but it's so sad. This adorable little girl, but I know what they're gonna do to me. They're gonna try to create some disgusting things. It was a nasty moment, but I'm gonna at least make a video about it. And so I try to make the video. This little, what do you call this? It's like those micro what's the name of it? Um, like memory stick, like this little ones here, right? This little. I tried to put it in my computer. It's not working. It was working before I went there, but it was now. It didn't work. I don't know if they did something. I tried to order something to kind of, maybe that's that my computer is kind of not working well, and it still hasn't been able to work. I've ordered a bunch of things and it's not working. Now, I don't know if they messed with it or maybe something was wrong with my camera. Matter of fact, since then, after a few other non-working moments, I've decided to change camera, body cam, and get another body cam. Yesterday, the most disgusting part is the way they were trying to make me relive these moments, but this time making me have different imaginations of what happened. They start making me think of like these kids, and they try to make me think of this baby's body and butt, and try to create like these perceptions and disgustingness. It was so foul. It made me very emotional, but I think that's what they want to do. They try to create agitations to get you to be riled up and disturbed. And I made videos yesterday, which you can hear the voices, the emotion I have. It's the foul things they do. And there's things they're going to continue to do. Not only they make me experience disgusting reaction in real time, but then they can go into memory and just add even more nastiness to it. It's the foul things we deal with, and I've been dealing with it now for, since August 19, 2019. It's really foul. Actually, when I got up, I was about to make this video. There was a picture of I don't know if you know this actress, Vanessa Williams. I think it's her when she was like a really young girl, like a 3-4-year-old girl. Matter of fact, she reminds me of like my a good friend, a very close friend of mine's daughter, where they were forcing me to have memories of that daughter with disturbing sexual stimulations, which they said that at one point they're like, okay, this is not what you experienced at the time, but you would have experienced it this way if you were a kid. They have these ways of trying to get you to accept this manipulation by saying you would experience things like that if you were a child. So we are making you experience something that you would experience, but when you're a kid, and then they'll be like, there is. Right? And the way they even say it's kind of like trying to sound like not even confidence. It's like, I'm gonna sell you in this BS. There is. That's how they sound. And you heard the logic I just said. You understand there's people who are contracted to try to make you be subscriptive of these logics. Let me repeat. They're saying that you would experience in this way if you were a child. And so what we're making you experience is giving you an experience that you would experience if your mind was a mind of a child. For example, your friend, his daughter, they falsify memories and give me stimulation. Then I look at the picture of her, whatever, when she's a baby, and it's like, okay, you did not experience that at the time, but this is how you would experience if you were a child. So we're making you re-experience this memory, but with a version of how you feel when you were a child. It is disgusting. And matter of fact, I remember when they started doing that, that's when I started recognizing that they were manipulating my memories, because I was like, I didn't experience that. And it was like, no, I don't remember experiencing that. And I'm like, that's when I started realizing that, they're not only manipulating me in real time, but they are manipulating my memories. Then thankfully, he has a picture of his baby when she's like, on his Facebook. And I'm like, that's not how. And then when you see the picture, you're like, in my brain, they can create a new version of how you experience memory. And so they're putting stimulations in my memories to match it to what I'm experiencing today. It's so foul. But that's the things they do. Um, Please, after this, you're gonna hear all I'm saying has been said by others. Another thing they've done is then try to make me believe, okay, because as a kid, just turned 14 years old, and you'll see a picture of me with like you'll see two pictures, a picture of me and a white kid, and one picture is me when I'm 12, about to turn 13, and one is a kid of 14 years old. And I'm using this picture because sometimes they try to make me imagine or make me see like an older 14-year-old with like big kids, right? Try to kind of make this kid more of an adult than an actual child. When I was that age, just turned 14 years old, right? Or about to turn 14 years old. There's something stupid I did to myself, a moment of a child, that it was impulsive, and what a child is capable of doing as a child is impulsive and in the stage of developing, of growing. I did this thing to myself, and they've been using that moment to make me be subscriptive or try to what I'm experiencing today, right? And try to break me down to make me acceptive of the nasty things that I'm experiencing by saying, no, there is, remember what you did as a kid, there is. Well, you understand at this point that the validation of what they do is not escapable. You cannot escape the things they do. What they do is to force you to experience disgusting pedophilia type of torture. It's experience these reactions that you will never experience naturally. And so they've been manipulating my memories, my thoughts, and my even reactions. Then say, that's how you would think when you're a child. And you're like, no, that's not how I experience things. You're making me experience in this way. And then go into my memory, manipulate my memories, and I would recognize this being falsified. And then they're like, but remember what you did as a child. It's like, yes, kids can do impulsive things. That was an impulsive moment of a child in 8th grade. I'm not a child. I'm an adult who recognizes himself, knows himself, and recognizes that this is not naturally happening. This is not him, and he did not feel this way before August 19, 2019. But today, because I'm a target individual, I'm going to experience the pedophilia things they've done to others. And to try to make me be subscriptive of this manipulation, not only they make me experience these things in real time, then they go into my memory, make me experience a memory where they make me feel like I experienced that and say we matched. Because what they did is go into my memory, manipulate my memory, and then make it feel the same way I experienced today. Then send childlike individuals who self-respect is very limited. They are contracted to gaslight you and want you to be subscriptive of these manipulations. It's disgusting. And so then sometimes logic is just playing with. I was a while ago, there was this guy who's I kind of like him. He's Dr. Umar. He's this like pro-African black man, and they were talking about the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, and they were saying that when he was a 13, 14-year-old boy, they saw him in a rally that was against what's the term again, when they were mixing black and white children in schools. He was against the rally. He was in the rally against that, right? But he was like 14 years old, 13, 14 years old. And this guy, Dr. Umar, said, you know what, by 14-year-old, as when you become 14 years old, you already have like, you're already a certain way. So, and it's he's already like, he already knew that he was going to be like that. Now, you got to understand, Dr. Umar is somewhat biased. Dr. Umar is very, very much against anything white. He's against white men. Sorry. He's pro-black, and he does believe there's a lot of racism happening. So he becomes biased to the point to say like, oh, when you're 14 years old, you're already like set in things, right? And of course, it's not true. We all know that you cannot compare the brain of a child who's in 8th grade, who's about to turn 14 years old, to an adult. We all know that. The reason why he's saying that is because he wants to continuously push the fact that these people now in charge grew up in a world of racism, and we should be aware that somebody that when he was in middle school were going to rallies where they were against black people, somebody who grew up in that world, when he's becoming an adult, because of his influence in that world, should be somebody we should be careful about, because he was influenced in a world where black people were seen as second-class citizen, third-class citizen. But obviously, we know that children in middle school are not set. You will change drastically from you when you were a child in middle school than when you become an adult. And we know that children in 8th grade, in 7th grade, are more impulsive and do things that a year later will not even think twice about, because it's part of growing up and it's part of developing as a child becoming an adult. And so these people wanted to say, you see, he said that when you're 14 years old, you're already set. So what you did is basically, is proof that's because they're trying to make me think that this impulsive moment that happened at one time is a proof that what I'm experiencing today is naturally happening. Now, obviously, I know these people are trying to gaslight me and convince me into accepting these manipulations, because obviously, you can never make somebody think that you in middle school and you as an adult man are the same, unless you are mentally retarded, unless you have mental handicap that have made you think the way you think as a child. You understand? But whatever they can do to make me subscribe to this pedophilia type of torture, they'll do it. And they will make you think, because this technology can manipulate your logic in the most childlike individual way, in the most retarded way. Because they want me to accept this nasty manipulation that I'm experiencing today as if it's happening naturally, and as if what you're gonna hear right now is not the obvious things that they do. Target individual, it is foul, but that's what they do. They torture children, and they do the pedophilia type of torture. In 2 seconds, when I'm done talking here, you're gonna hear that they have been systematically utilizing the pedophilia type of torture, meaning they've been forcing men and women to have sexual reactions, dreams, thoughts aimed toward children and pedophilia-centric. And it's been consistently shown that they do that. And this is why they would make you think in this retardation and ways of thinking, to try to convince you that what you're experiencing is not these things that you're going to hear, that they don't do this pedophilia type of torture, but somehow made you think the way you think when you're a child. These people are these people want you to be mentally on the spectrum, to be acceptive of the things that they obviously do. I have no problem bringing up reality, as I know their job is to create a false reality. So to all my target individuals, listen to what they do, and do never ever be subscriptive of these manipulations.
malodorants. This is the alteration of the smell sensation so that I am often made to smell various things, including smoke, burning, dirty diaper, or baby powder, which they sometimes combine with the pedophilia type of torture, including the threat of planted.
It is dramatic. It's somebody trying to end my life. It's somebody trying to end who I am as a person. It's somebody trying to take over my mind, putting thoughts of pedophiles. Like, this disgusting things. You saw where I was going with that first word. Disgusting things that I don't even want to talk about because it makes me sick.
Almost all targets are forced to view child pornography in their minds.
Impose any information on the brain of a person, presumably by some kind of waves, which in the mind take the form of voices, thoughts, and images and imagination. In addition to this kind of implanting information that they need, they manipulate the psyche so that the information is written into your memory. Then by stimulating the certain regions in the brain, they can retrieve this information and present it as your own memory. This is the conclusion that can be made judging by the influence they have been making on me with their psychotronic weapons, for example, artificial thoughts, imagination, and mental torture.
Or voice to skull. This involves the projection of voices, noises, and music directly into my mind to communicate with me in real time and at the speed of thought. And it also includes the manipulation of thoughts, emotions, and perceptions in the person's mind. Additionally, the targeting is all highly perverted and sexual, as well as just disturbing pornographic images and videos, including highly disturbing pedophilia type of images and videos when I close my eyes.
So I told them that I know what you are trying to do, and I started laughing. And then I said again out loud, "You'll never take my will, ASS." So just to show them that I meant what I said, I kept playing with my dog, and even though that attacks continue, I don't let them get me. Today, they continue with the programming of perversion, but this time they are aiming in the use. A people, better said young people, also children.
In the face, stupid shit like that. But what I really noticed is, with the voice of skull, it's a bunch of females. And I'm like, bro, really? You're not a woman. What real woman would stalk another female or sit back and allow this to go on? You really think they think it's nothing wrong with you?
Okay. So they'll say we're the Russian government, we're the Chinese government, we're evil aliens, we're Satan's, satanic ritual abuse. And I've heard all the stories. One guy believed it was some 14-year-old kid with an Xbox that lived next door. The trickery really is that great when you're under hypnosis that people will believe something other than a massive government could do this. And so anyway, my interview with Len, he very well described a typical breakdown script that's used on almost all the TI victims. TI stands for targeted individuals. Some of them are pretty crazy. They have names like Alice in Wonderland, Wizard of Oz, and those are the confusion tactics. And when they're breaking down the ego of the human through all the pains and tortures and the verbal breakdown, these are typical CIA torture scripts.
Contact with a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old. He was simply fired. One employee purchased sexually explicit videos of young girls filmed by their mothers. He resigned. One employee estimated that he had viewed up to 1,400 sexually abusive images of children while on agency assignments. Not sure what actions, if any, were taken by him. One contractor arranged for the viewing of images of abuse have been uncovered at other agencies that handle sensitive information. In a November 2009 report, the Department of Defense acknowledged that dozens of Pentagon staff members or contractors had such images. In 2014, the Inspector General of the Intelligence Community found that 2 officials from the National Reconnaissance Office, which oversees America's spy satellites, acknowledged viewing images of child sexual abuse during polygraph examinations. This is so disturbing. At a symposium in 2016, Daniel Payne, a top Pentagon security official, said that when workers' computers were examined, the amount of child porn I see is just unbelievable. Is this something that is happening for whatever reason?
Ali, we're told, and when I was put through recruitment into the Intel community, you're put through polygraphs, you're put through a rigorous selection process. Why aren't these people weeded out? Why are so many pedophiles allowed to be given top-level security clearance? Remember, these aren't just people walking in off the street and saying, hey, can I get hired? Can I get a job? You're put through an extremely rigorous background check screening process. It's called an SSBI, single scope background investigation. There are people, they interview you, they interview your family, they interview your contacts, they go through your online footprint, they go through everything. So why is it that when they're going through these footprints, they're not checking, these digital footprints, they're not checking for so many pedophiles getting through their ranks? If it were up to me, you need to go into Congress, and Congress needs to launch a brand new church committee, number one, to talk about domestic surveillance operations, but number two, to ask the question, why are there so many pedophiles sitting behind
young children? I had a 7-year-old client who has autism, and she was the most significantly affected of all of my clients. I eventually had to tell this client to go to another clinic. And they used her to threaten the most torture in me, as well as their most extreme forms of torture. For several months, she would cry and scream horribly during our therapy sessions, despite having a great day at school. This was highly unusual behavior for her. One day, I also observed her gasping for air a few times in the same way that I do when I am being more severely suffocated. The suffocation had been in a mild state for a while up until this point. Many of their torture methods are cyclical in severity. Right after I saw this child being suffocated, then I began to experience very extreme suffocation all day, every day, for about 2 months straight, and that's also when they made it worse when I eat. And I also work with a 4-year-old little girl with Down syndrome, as well as her 5-year-old sister who also has Down syndrome. I observed both of these girls suddenly grabbing their genitals in pain and verbalizing, ow. I observed this at least on 1 or 2 occasions. During one session, I observed one of my 3-year-old clients suddenly grab his crotch and lean forward in his chair. And then he made a frightening grimace of severe pain. I asked him what was wrong and if he needed to use the restroom, but he said no to having to use the restroom.
So you see here the obvious disturbing patterns that we see here. No one
I am currently a speech-language pathologist working in private practice with young children. I had a 7-year-old client who has autism, and she was the most significantly affected of all of my clients. I eventually had to tell this client to go to another clinic. And they used her to threaten the most torture in me, as well as their most extreme forms of torture. For several months, she would cry and scream horribly during our therapy sessions, despite having a great day at school. This was highly unusual behavior for her, as she usually behaved very well during her therapy sessions and had been making incredible progress on all of her therapy goals. This was used to threaten extreme torture on me, making me scream and cry, etc. They would make the kids act out the kinds of torture that would later be done on me. For example, they would also sometimes make her bite her hand, threatening to make me bite my hands, as they often do. One day, she had a large, severe bite mark on her arm. She has also grabbed her crotch, saying, ow, and this was used to threaten me with severe sexual torture. One day, I also observed her gasping for air a few times in the same way that I do when I am being more severely suffocated. The suffocation had been in a mild state for a while up until this point. Many of their torture methods are cyclical in severity. Right after I saw this child being suffocated, then I began to experience very extreme suffocation all day, every day, for about 2 months straight, and that's also when they made it worse when I eat. And I also work with a 4-year-old little girl with Down syndrome, as well as her 5-year-old sister who also has Down syndrome. I observed both of these girls suddenly grabbing their genitals in pain and verbalizing, ow. I observed this at least on 1 or 2 occasions for each of them during their separate sessions. During one session, I observed one of my 3-year-old clients suddenly grab his crotch and lean forward in his chair. And then he made a frightening grimace of severe pain.
I live in El Dorado Hills, California, with my wife of 14 years, Lorna, and our 5 children. Nicole is 15, Patricia 14, Christopher 13, Dylan 9, and Avery 16 months old. Not only have I been going through this, but my entire family has suffered right by my side. We have all experienced the same type of harassment on different levels. We have all suffered the same symptoms while this harassment was going on. Some of our physical symptoms include severe tooth decay and vision loss, unexplained rashes and burns, severe headaches, mood swings, anxiety, thyroid problems, high blood pressure, heart problems, vision loss and cancer. Two of my children were born premature, which I attribute to this. Our son Dylan, now age 9, was born very premature. He was born at 31 weeks. During her pregnancy with Dylan, we were being targeted more so than other times. At the delivery, there were weird men walking and waiting around the hospital. Right outside our delivery room window, there was a white cargo van parked with 2 suspicious men inside. They were there the entire labor, a delivery. Our son had to be transported to another hospital 45 minutes away. When arriving to the Toa hospital, those same men and van were present. Three of my children have severe rashes that have not been explained by several doctors. These rashes have been present for several years at a time. If interested, I will gladly furnish you with detailed photos of the rashes. Our infant daughter, at 3 weeks old, was diagnosed with Lerner syndrome. This was after a severe rash appeared on her body after a few days of torture. We were told by a couple doctors to take her home and love her and spend the rest of the time we have with her. They told us she would ultimately die from this syndrome. Thank God that Lerner syndrome was not what affected our daughter. Doctors are still dumbfounded by her rash and symptoms. Sadly, we know that her symptoms were effects from the torture this poor innocent 3-week-old baby endured. Recently, I lost complete time. I exhibited the flashing lights. My 9-year-old son Dylan complained about the lights. You will often hear that vision is something that is greatly affected with this type of torture.
So you hear the testimony.
Ms. Catherine Nestor.
My name is Catherine Nestor, and I'm from Pennsylvania. This commission has spoken of a long history of abuse of the human research subject. Although no one mentioned MKUltra today, President Clinton recently apologized for this. My young child and I have been used as non-consensual test subjects. We have been subjected to COINTELPRO-like stalking, remote neural monitoring, and electromagnetic torture, resulting in psychological and physical damage. And I won't go into the details of that because I have 4 pages written in here that is very similar to Connie's testimony. Please do not wait 70 years to investigate this. I ask Dr. Amy Gutman to begin today. There is new work for the Commission for Human Subject Protection on our shores. And please give us a dramatic response, Susan. And please give us a congressional hearing. Thank you.
They're slightly tailored for each individual, but they're scripts. And they're meant to confuse the very derogatory. That's just typical breakdown. If you've ever been to boot camp, V2K. So they'll say, we're the Russian government, we're the Chinese government, we're evil aliens, we're Satan's, satanic ritual abuse. And I've heard all the stories. One guy believed it was some 14-year-old kid with an Xbox that lived next door. the trickery really is that great when you're under hypnosis that people will believe something other than a massive government could do this. And so anyway, my interview with Len, he very well described a typical breakdown script that's used in almost all the TI victims. TI stands for targeted individuals. Some of them are pretty crazy. They have names like Alice in Wonderland, Wizard of Oz, and those are the confusion tactics. And when they're breaking down the ego of the human through all the pains and tortures and the verbal breakdown, these are typical CIA torture script.
With a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old, he was simply fired. One employee purchased sexually explicit videos of young girls filmed by their mothers. He resigned. One employee estimated that he had viewed up to 1,400 sexually abusive images of children while on agency assignments. Not sure what actions, if any, were taken by him. One contractor arranged for sex with an undercover. The viewing of images of abuse have been uncovered at other agencies that handle sensitive information. In a November 2009 report, the Department of Defense acknowledged that dozens of Pentagon staff members or contractors had such images. In 2014, the Inspector General of the Intelligence Community found that 2 officials from the National Reconnaissance Office, which oversees America's spy satellites, acknowledged viewing images of child sexual abuse during polygraph examinations. This is so disturbing. At a symposium in 2016, Daniel Payne, a top Pentagon security official, said that when workers' computers were examined, the amount of child porn I see is just unbelievable.
We're told, and when I was put through recruitment into the intel community, you're put through polygraphs, you're put through a rigorous selection process. Why aren't these people weeded out? Why are so many pedophiles allowed to be given top-level security clearance? Remember, these aren't just people walking in off the street and saying, hey, can I get hired? Can I get a job? You're put through an extremely
dramatic. It's somebody trying to end my life. It's somebody trying to end who I am as a person. It's somebody trying to take over my mind, putting thoughts of pedophiles. Like this disgusting thing.
Almost all targets are forced to view child pornography in their minds.
A pedophilia type of torture, including